Hey everyone, so today we're talking about pre-writing and how it's going to help you. This is really important for you to be able to set up your writing prior to actually getting started. I'm noticing in a lot of there's a lot of organizational problems with your writing, and one of the things I'm seeing is that you're not doing a lot of pre-writing. So I'm going to go through this. First thing we're going to do is interpret a prompt. The prompt will tell you the following information. It will tell you who you're going to be in the essay, your role. It's going to tell you who you're writing to, who your audience is, what your writing is going to look like, the format, and finally, what you're writing about, the topic. Remember, we do RAFs at the beginning of the year. You don't necessarily need to break this down, but know that the prompt is going to ask you these things. And then finally, the prompt is going to ask you what you need to do. And this is one of the things that we have worked on and we need to continue to work on. And this is an important thing, is you need to be able to create a checklist and find out what is being asked of you. A lot of you aren't necessarily passing the essays because of the fact that you're not responding to all parts of the prompt. So to find out what to do, you're going to create a checklist. You're going to circle the verbs, and then you're going to use the verbs to separate the prompt into tasks. So our prompt for today is, as a student, you probably use the internet to help you study and gather information. Write an essay explaining several ways that the internet has been useful to you as a student. Present and discuss specific examples that come from your own experience. So what you're going to do right now is you're going to circle all the verbs. Write is one. What's another one? Explaining is another one. Present is one. And finally, discuss. Good. Then we're going to take these verbs, right? Explaining, present, discuss, and make them into checklist items. So the first one, write an essay. The next one, explain several ways the internet has been useful to you as a student. Present examples, and you're going to discuss these examples. So you've got to, one, give your examples, but also explain why they're important, why they show, why they prove your point about why the internet's been useful. You try it this time. Circle the verbs, and then use the verbs to separate the prompt into separate tasks. Here's the prompt. Up until the 1970s, the United States had a draft system. Every young man aged 18 had to register with the Military Draft Board and could be called up to active duty if the need arose. A student group in your school has presented an argument that the draft should be restored. Do you agree or disagree with this idea? Write a letter to your school paper in which you present your stance on the issue. Support your position with specific reasons and examples. Try to convince your audience to agree with your opinion. So I want you to circle the verbs. And then once you circle those verbs, create a checklist. Pause here if you need more time. Let's go over the answers. So the first verb is do. The next one is write. One is present, support, and convince. Do. Agree or disagree with the draft. That's what you need to do. You need to write a letter. You need to present your stance. You need to support your position with specific reasons and examples, and try to convince your audience to agree with your opinion. How did you do? So now that you've broken down the prompt, what do you do? You got to do pre-writing. And there are 3 different types of pre-writing. Actually, there's a lot of different types, but 3 of the types we look at: brainstorming bubbles, outlines, and mental maps. Today I'm going to talk about the brainstorming bubbles, because I think these are the most useful for you, especially in the case in a confined amount of time. So for us, for the first prompt, remember the prompt was, are you for or against the draft? So you're going to give, so if you're for or against it, you give reasons, and then you give examples of these reasons. So you should have, no, it's okay. I just don't know how to
What's that?
pause it. So in a brainstorming bubble, the thing that goes in the center is your main topic, your main idea. So for the first one, remember our prompt was about how the internet has helped students. So I know internet is my main center idea. Then I'm going to come up with my reasons why the internet is a good idea. I'm putting 4 boxes here. Remember, every time you ask me, how many body paragraphs do I need to have? I always tell you as many as you need to make the argument. So I'm putting 4 here, but you can do 3, or you can do 5, or you could do 2. It depends on how many you need to make the argument. So you're going to have, these are each of your paragraphs. Each of these boxes are going to be your body paragraphs. They're the reasons that it's helping students. Each reason is going to be its own paragraph in your essay. Then, in each paragraph, you're going to give examples of the reasons. So if you have 3 body paragraphs with reasons, you're going to have 3 examples of the reasons within those body paragraphs. And then, in each body paragraph, you're also going to have some kind of commentary that ties it back to why this is so helpful. So if I were going to explain why the internet is helpful to students, my reason might be it's helpful for research. An example of this reason is when writing our research project on the Greek gods and goddesses last year, we did a lot of research on the computer or on the internet. So then I'm going to tie it back to why it's so helpful. Without this internet research, we wouldn't have had access to the amount of resources we did when we had the internet. Each time you've got to tie it back to why it's so helpful. Don't just state your example. Go back and explain. This shows that it's important. You try it this time. What you're going to do is you're going to create a brainstorming bubble for the prompt below. Set it up like you were going to write the essay. So remember, this one is about the draft. Do you agree or disagree with the idea of the draft? You're going to write a letter to your school paper in which you present your stance. Support your position with specific reasons and examples. Try to convince your audience to agree with your opinion. Pause right now and create a brainstorming bubble. Now I'm going to show you what your bubble could have looked like. This isn't the only way to do it, but this is one of the ways you could have done it. So for the center, you're going to have a for or against. You're either going to decide to agree or disagree with the draft. Then you're going to have your reasons why you agree or disagree. And in your reasons, you're going to give examples of these reasons. So we're going to disagree with the draft because 18-year-olds need to go to college. That might be, and one of my examples of going to college is that, when they go to college at 18, they learn a lot of world knowledge that they didn't have if they were to go in the draft right at 18. And then you're going to tie it back to why this is so, it's not really helpful, but why it proves your point. Why this proves your point. I want to go back to this before we keep going. Make sure you know how to set up your brainstorming bubble. This will help you in most of the writing you do, because you know that each of the branches off of your main idea is your thesis, that's your center. Each branch off of it is going to be its own paragraph. One of the things I want to point out with the persuasive essay, this is a little bit different than the essays we've done before, is that you're going to want to address one argument against your opinion and counter it. So if I'm saying the draft is not good, that we should not have the draft, I need to bring in the counter argument and then explain why my point is stronger than that. So I might say something like, some say that implementing the draft will create a more powerful military, but people that we have in the draft would not be as invested as the full volunteer army would be. So I'm saying this is the counter argument, but here's how I address it. It brings more credibility to your essay. It allows people to believe you because they know you're looking at both sides of the issue. take time right now to look at page 165. You're going to highlight this information, any of the things that are important to stand out to you.